welcome back to my channel. My name is Haley and today I will be doing a craft book review, which is pretty exciting, I think, at least. I will be talking about Jane Allison's Meander, Spiral, Explode. So let me know in the comments below if you've heard of this book or if you've read it before. Please let me know because I actually really liked it as my first hot take. But we'll get more into that. Oh no, I got lipstick on it. Oops. It's basically in this just very long argument with Aristotle and his Poetics, basically against anything arc related. Instead, it's waves, explosions, meanders, like the title says. There's also radials, networks and cells, fractals, and the last chapter is tsunami ? So, which is just really fun in general. I don't know why I'm waving around this book so much. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna read this quote from the book. It's from the intro, and let me just find it quick. And it kind of sums up the premise of the book as a whole. So, let's go. For centuries, there's been one path through fiction we're most likely to travel, one we're actually told to follow, and that is a dramatic arc. A situation arises, grows tense, reaches a peak, subsides. Teachers bid young writers to follow the arc, or triangle, or pyramid. If you ask Google how to structure a story, your face will be hammered with pictures of arcs. And it is an elegant shape, especially when I translate arc to its natural form, a wave. Its rise and fall traces a motion we know in heartbeats. Breaking surf, the sun passing overhead. There's power in a wave, its sense of beginning, midpoint, and end. No wonder we fall into it in stories. But something that swells and tautens until climax, then collapses? Bit mascosexual, no? So many other patterns run through nature, tracing other deep motions in life. Why not draw on them too? So, I just love the bit about bit mascosexual, no? So it's going away from the typical wave that even I studied when I was in college and saying there's not just that one way to craft a story. There's all these other patterns in nature that meander, the spiral, all this other stuff that you can take from nature and put that into prose. And it comes off as a lot more experimental. The structure is more, what's the word I'm looking for? The structure is more expansive, I think, because you're not limited to just this one type of upside down check mark is how I learned it. So up and I was reading this book while I was writing Only Human, which was kind of ironic since I was trying to follow Save the Cat writes a novel, which is exactly that Aristotle wave of the beginning, middle, climax, resolution point we need to get away from in order to expand what the English literature is. And this is what I really liked about it, because I've been thinking this way for a while, that there's been this huge rift between commercial fiction and literary fiction, and I don't understand why we have these two, the split, you know, because I think, and she uses a ton of literary fiction examples, so I mean, if you write more like adventure, mystery, that kind of book, even romance, I mean, you can definitely use this to make your prose more, I don't want to say literary, because I have a firm belief that commercial fiction can be just as literary as literary fiction, even if it's in a genre. Because at the end of the day, there's always going to be some type of story, you know? So there's always going to be something fantastical or something ultra realistic. But I think literary fiction in this modern, postmodern era that we're in has been really bogged down to the idea of the kitchen sink, which in theatrical terms basically means everything has to be exactly how it is in reality. So it is focused on having a kitchen sink with running tap water and a stove on the theatrical stage, and it has to be ultra believable, ultra real. And although I love stories like that too, because I think that it's just so fascinating to read some of those things, but it could also be mundane. But that's part of the experimentation with those types of books is making the mundane not mundane. But here's another quote that I really liked. That's actually on the just on the back there. I don't think you can see that. Maybe not. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name right. Doctors don't imitate Galen. Why should writers follow Aristotle? Jane Austen, in her fresh original book about narrative, is our new Aristotle. And that's from Edmund White, who's the author of The Unpunished Vice, A Life of Reading. So, yeah. It's just, and she talks about point line texture, movement and flow, color. And she does have a couple examples that are more genred in here. It's not just literary fiction, but commercial fiction especially follows the wave, Aristotle's wave, as if there's nothing else, that because there's a mode and a method to the madness, and that's what makes books sell and successful, that authors can't experiment with structure as much as they used to. Because I think back to like early 20th century, late 19th century, like that is my favorite era for fiction because the prose is so experimental and beautiful, and I feel like there's just been a downgrade in acceptable prose. Not like acceptable prose because the prose is still good, it's just not the same, you know? Like there's not, and I think because it's so easy to publish now and because editors are so overworked, they don't spend as much time on a novel than they used to, so I feel like a lot gets pushed under the rug. If it's good, it's like good enough, but even if a book has like room for more potential, they don't really do anything with it. So like, which pisses me off too, because I'm kind of like, if I'm getting my book published, if I choose to do it traditionally, like I want you to like fuck this book up, okay? Like I want you to take it, throw it down, like rip it to shreds, make me start all over if I need to. Like I don't want some subpar prose going on the shelf because there's no blue pen anymore, you know? And I just hate it. I hate it so much, and I don't know what to do about it, to be honest. Like I don't know what can fix it. And this sorry for the rant, but this is a ranty video, I guess, that I'm just like, but no, that should not be acceptable. It should not be that way, okay? Back to the book. I didn't even talk about the author of this book. Jane Austen is currently a professor at the University of Virginia as a creative writing professor. She's written 4 novels, 1 memoir, and also she translated Ovid. Like how badass is that? She translated sections that dealt with like women's sexuality, I think. It sounds really cool and I'm all for it. Another thing that she actually wrote in the very end, in the epilogue, was she wrote this book to make novels more novel. And I mean, I love puns, but like, isn't that just like on point? Like novels should be more novel, because that's the whole premise of how novels got the name novel, is because they were a work that were novel in scope. Like, pew, pew. I'm sure you're wondering about these other patterns that she goes in about and the examples that she uses, and I'm gonna list a couple of books that she mentioned. So she mentions The House on Mango Street, The Lover. She talks about The Lover a lot. Sherman Alexie's Captivity. What other ones that come up a lot? Joyce Carol Oates, Black Water. She talks about The Emigrants so much in this book, and I haven't read it yet, and I really need to now, because she brings up The Emigrants so much. Like, it's crazy how much she talks about The Emigrants, and that W.G. Sebald? I don't really know. I'm trying to find the one. And she mentioned some other craft books too in here that I kind of want to check out, like The Art of Fiction by John Gardner, Art, Design, and Visual Thinking, The Concept of the Radical in Writing, Narrative Dynamics, Spatial Form in Narrative, How to Draw a Novel. I did buy The Art of Syntax, which is one of the ones that she mentioned in here, because I want to experiment more with my prose and how I'm doing this, especially as I start revisions with my current work in progress. Oh, and Chronicle of a Death Foretold by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and I'm probably saying that wrong too. Translated by Gregory Rabassa. Yeah, which has been on my reading list for a long time because it's magical realism and it's literary and I fucking love that shit. Yeah. So those are some of the books that she mentions in this wonderful, wonderful book. In other words, Jane Allison's book is basically 247 pages of pure English class literary analysis, and I love it. If I could critique this, I'd say I did want more books that were genred, because she had one dystopian in here and then she had Death Foretold in here, which is magical realism, like I said. So there were like a couple of oddball, but most of them were like literary fiction. A lot were translations from foreign writers, which is fine. I love foreign writers, but it does make me wonder too, because when you're translating a work and syntax works so differently in different cultures, I mean, it sounds super epic and older and more sophisticated, but I think that's just how foreign writers write. And here in America, it's a lot, at least my postmodern opinion, which isn't even postmodern, is that it's very simplified prose. And maybe that's just because we have a ton of YA now, and that's kind of like taken over. But I don't know how to say this without feeling like I'm gonna offend somebody, because I'm not trying to offend anybody. I think every writer is valid and every piece of prose is beautiful in its own way. I just think that we need to find a way to get back to where it was and experimenting and using the written word to our advantage. And I do think that reading this book is definitely a step in that direction, because she points out so many different ways to write something, and although it might not be that commercial formula that everyone is obsessed with right now, and has been for a long time now, it does make you question why those books are so popular. Why is that the only book that is being picked up on the shelf when there's so many different types of stories that can be told, and we can make our imaginations go fucking wild and like explode and like spiral and go all these different places if we wanted to, but we don't. And the books that don't get picked up by major publishers. And I just think that's really sad. I think that's really sad. So I encourage everyone to experiment and try to get us out of the hook. And I mean, even me, like I'm using the wave. I am not like entirely experimenting or anything like that currently with the books that I have written so far, especially for Only Human. I was attempting to use a formula, so it's not like it's the exception or it's bad or evil. It's none of those things. It's just a way of writing. But I know that the young generation of writers, me included, I do think it's our responsibility to take our writing to the next level, because it's been the same for like the last 20 years and it's the 21st century, and we should have something different and new to show the world. So why don't we yet? Yeah. I know that this craft book review wasn't a very good review. I mean, I recommend this book. I do. I didn't go into super uber details into what all the different patterns are or whatever, because I think she explains it pretty well in the book, and I actually think I need to reread it to understand it even better, because I mean, I read through it once. I didn't really take that many notes or anything because I figured I would want to reread it. She really goes like step by step to like why this is true, or like how this works with our psyche, and back and forth and so forth. I just wish there was more variety to show, depending on the types of books you like to write and how you might be able to apply it to those genred categories. So that was my only like big critique of this book, was that I wanted more variety. That being said, before I go ranting again into literary and contemporary commercial viewpoints, which I'm thinking about making another video on, because I did not realize that that rant was going to come out of me tonight. So if you want more of that or want to hear more about that, I'll try to articulate it better in a way that isn't like, because I do want to just encourage everyone to experiment with their writing. I think that we need more of that in our society and culture and bookshelf. I will leave it at that, because I feel like I ended on a pretty good note. So please, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't or disagree with me, you can down thumb, but I prefer the up, and subscribe if you haven't yet. I am going on a year making videos this upcoming April, so it'd mean a lot to me if I can get as close to 100 subscribers as possible by then, because then I could make a short little 1 year 100 subs. That'd be pretty neat. So if you even feel the slightest inclination to subscribe to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. I don't know why I'm saying it like that. Oh my gosh. Please leave your thoughts in the comments on if you're gonna pick this book up or not, and why, and if you want to see more craft book reviews by me in the future, which was a rant instead of a review. There we go. I'll leave it at that. Good night. Wish upon the first star you see tonight, and I will see you guys soon with another video.